All right, everybody, we're back in business here at Betting You. It's Betting You overtime. You know why? Because there's too many college games. And yeah, we already laid out. I'll say it right now. I'm going to say it a couple times through the show. If you're looking for Clemson and Georgia and all the normal teams, we've got you covered. Just go to Betting You. The original show, it dropped early in the week. This is not that. This is extra greasy. Florida International, UMass, Kennesaw State, Troy, Charlotte, those type of teams. We're going to get into the nitty gritty, the deep waters here. I'm Ben Razza. Makajeski joins me. No better person to handle these type of grime. And I know in early season, you've already been mercifully having to deal with FCS schools because of DFS. But what do you think about some of these, Power Five, lesser known teams, maybe up against it this week? There are a lot of these games.
I'm fine with everything that does not include an FCS team. I don't. So just to tell you why, I don't spend a lot of time on the FCS during the regular season. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense to spend all this time in weeks 1 through 3 breaking these FCS teams only to say goodbye to them, never again. So that's why I've been frustrated for DFS and why I largely ignore them. Want to get a couple good games in the FCS taking on FBS when you have like a playoff team from the FCS playing Colorado, or Oklahoma State is a pretty close one, or you just get an FBS team that's that bad. But yeah, that's why I generally don't like it. I'd rather focus my time on the teams we actually watch throughout the season instead of Lafayette and Lindenwood.
Lindenwood. I do have one FCS team that I want to talk about, but we get things started. And by the way, these are the Friday and Saturday games. So we're going Friday, Saturday slate here. And we get one started. These are not FCS teams. We've got FAU and Michigan State. 2 touchdown spread. There are some 13.5s if you're looking to lay the points with Michigan State. Interesting. FAU's had their moments in recent years, no doubt about it. Michigan State has not on the macro level. The simplest question I want to ask about this game is Michigan State on the ascension to being relevant again, or are they still looking in the rebuild?
They're definitely rebuilding still. It's going to take a while for Jonathan Smith. This program is kind of weird overall. At times they've recruited well. Other times they haven't. The Mel Tucker days were a disaster. They had the one good year on Kenneth Walker's shoulders. But they come into this year 42nd in recruiting, 12th in the transfer portal. Jonathan Smith brought over a lot of his guys from Oregon State. Aiden Childs is going to be under center quarterback. Just young, didn't see him much last year. Only came in a couple times when he was on these gadget type plays, running around. And he does have mobility, which is good. Receiving corps is kind of a disaster, I think. They do have 1 4-star and Nick Marsh coming in, but he's a freshman. The guys you return are like Monterey Foster, Jerron Glover, Alante Brown, who transferred in last year. Not the most impressive group. Jack Velling comes in at tight end from Oregon State. That is solid. Your offensive line has just 1 back and 2 transfers, so that's a complete rebuild. Luckily, they have 2 4-stars there, freshmen. So that's kind of like a copy and paste at almost every position group. They're super young with the guys Jonathan Smith recruited, but what does that mean this year? You're papering over it with a lot of transfers, a lot of players that are either unproven, coming down a level, or coming up, like Wayne Matthews from Old Dominion at linebacker. He's a guy coming up. Then there's Jordan Turner from Wisconsin at linebacker. He's kind of coming down. So there's a lot of that, which I think is pretty concerning for year one. Now you're playing FAU, so how much is it really going to matter? You're still 2 touchdown favorites in some spots. If you shop that, you could find 13.5s. But this team is also a complete disaster. They're rebuilding as well, even though they're not technically, year one of a coaching staff. But last year was their window. And unfortunately for them, their starting quarterback got hurt in week 3, Casey Thompson. So it kind of derailed their season. They had to go to the Central Michigan transfer. But they lost a ton of guys. A ton of guys graduated or transferred out. So this is this is basically a year one for FAU. They bring in Cam Fancher, who was not a good signal caller at stop. This was the 116th most efficient quarterback in the country last year. Not very optimistic there. They're going to turn to CJ Campbell at running back. He's a transfer from Florida State. All of their receivers are gone from last year. The only one who returned, BJ Alexander, he's already out for the year. So your transfers are George Johnson, UMass, Milan Tucker. He was a kick returner at App State. Maryland Johnson from Buffalo. EJ Horton, Caleb Coombs do have some familiarity with Fancher, but this is a really bad group of receivers. Offensive line is just one guy back. Defense, I guess, technically is the strength of your team. You returned 7 with starting experience from this unit. Previously, we saw Hayden Charles go to the media and tell everyone to take an over. I should have taken just a spot under as soon as people started betting that, because it went up to 47. Then it came back down. Last I saw was around 45, which is a no bet for me. Truthfully, I don't like a side. I think both these teams are really going to struggle on offense this year, especially FAU playing Michigan State. So it's an under or pass, but I think it's probably just going to be a pass all across the board.
Yeah, I have some, if you're saying I want to bet a ton of games on Friday and Saturday, I have some tepid interest in Michigan State at 13.5. I think that FAU is a mess, but anytime you're laying a couple touchdowns in a game that your implied total isn't, that healthy, margins, a couple fumbles, something stupid, and you're out in the cold. So not the best game on the board by far. I'm not going to say the next game is the best game on the board by far.
We're in the greasy section. That's what we get.
This is actually a fascinating game, and it's Central Arkansas against Arkansas State. Now, the only reason I bring this up is mostly because we're both, I think it's fair to say, pretty high on Arkansas State. But I just wanted to highlight this game. I do think that they're the side I have interest in. But I wanted to give some background on Central Arkansas, because this is not a typical FCS team. They're good. They're certainly ranked. They were 7-4 last year. They didn't make it. Lost to North Dakota State 49-31. Lost to Oklahoma State 27-13. And I think that is why this line hasn't moved up even more. I think people are maybe overrating that. They did play well in that game. They returned 4 all-conference players. They got a transfer from an Army, a transfer from Bowling Green. That's about it, though. They lost 4 transfers to FBS schools, as well as a lot of FCS to FCS. The strength of the team, Derek Powell, All-American running back. Guy's awesome. Their quarterback's in their 7th year. You've got that going for you, a former Northern Iowa guy. But he's got absolutely no weapons on the outside. They lost their top 4 pass catchers. Defensively, I think they'll be okay. But I just wanted to set the stage there, because for me, I think if we both believe in Arkansas State, and I do, Arkansas State is a serious team this year. I think they're going to be really, really good and a tough out for good schools. As much as Central Arkansas does, I'm willing to venture into these waters a little bit. And I just wanted to mention, I think Arkansas State, of all the grimy schools out there, of all the FCS games that are a little freaky and whatnot, I really like what Arkansas State's doing. The spread's not out of control, and it shouldn't be, because they're playing a good opponent. But I think they're going to be ready to go. Obviously, what they retained, you talked about the recruiting and whatnot. Arkansas State's on the upswing, and I think they show it, in the coming days. So little Saturday action. Give me Arkansas State minus 10.5.
All I can really say in this game is on the Arkansas State side. Aside from that Oklahoma State team that played Central Arkansas early in the year, they were a complete mess back then. I remember watching Oklahoma State, and it wasn't just that game. They beat Arizona State by 12. They lost to South Alabama and got slaughtered. But they were using 3 quarterbacks. They played all 3 of those bozos in the first week. It was like Bowman played a little bit, Rangel played, and then some other guy, I can't even remember who, played as well. Ollie Gordon had 7 carries in that game. They were just flat out splitting like everything. So if you're using that as a data point in favor of Central Arkansas, Oklahoma State did not have it figured out. On Central Arkansas. The Arkansas State side I like a lot. They have everyone back on offense, basically. You only lost 1 starter on the offensive line. And because of injuries, they actually do have 5 guys back that have starting experience. So you can use all those guys if you want. They had 1 transfer. And a lot of their transfers, whether they're this year or previous years, come from elite programs. Their running back, Jaquez Cross, is from Purdue. Courtney Jackson's from Syracuse. Goldie Lawrence this year is from Florida State. And this is the best recruiting team in the Sun Belt. Every single year, they have the best numbers. If you just do aggregate over the last 3 seasons, Arkansas State is far and away the best recruiting program, which has led them to guys like Jalen Rayner at quarterback, who actually come in right away as freshmen and play and grew throughout the season. So there's a lot to like on this team. Didn't mention much on defense, but if you want to go that route, they have a lot back there as well. And that should benefit them in this game. I can't even tell you what kind of offense Central Arkansas runs, but fortunately, fortunately on the defensive line, both your defensive tackles are back. You had transfers like Micah Overton from Texas A&M. They have 3 linebacker transfers on top of one of their returners, 3 starters back in the secondary, 2 good transfers there. So, I mean, what offense does Central Arkansas run, Ben? What do we need to stop?
It's nothing gimmicky. It's just pretty standard. Like I said, they've got a multiple-time All-American running back and a quarterback that's, I don't know. I'd call him not a game manager. He knows what he's doing, but like I said, he lost his top 4. I think that Arkansas State is a little undervalued because I think people are saying, oh, Central Arkansas played Oklahoma State really close last year. You mentioned it doesn't tell the full story.
I'm looking up that quarterback. I got to know who it was. Gunnar. Oh, God. How did I not remember this?
Yeah,
Coleman, Garrett Rangel, and Gunnar Gundy. I can't remember.
I was going to say that. I thought you mentioned him. I didn't hear the third, but yeah.
I just couldn't remember the third guy, and then I forgot it was the coach's kid. I'm a bozo.
Yeah, that's typical. That's how Oklahoma State rolls. All right. This is a cool game because not that the MAC is a high-powered conference, but I do think, and you'll know, that Miami of Ohio is poised to be one of the tougher outs in the MAC. And they take on Northwestern, who's a solid squad, 3.5-point spread, 39.5-point total, which I think is somewhat necessary. I'll bring up OddsShopper to see what other lines are out there. But talk to me about this game. I assume you think, there's a 2.5 out there as well, that this could be a very competitive game.
Yeah, this about sums up the MAC in a nutshell. Really low scoring game environment, a total under 40 points, but this is the preseason favorite in the MAC, and they're going against Northwestern. I think is a little underrated. We'll get into them, I guess. I think if you can find under a 3, this is worth betting Northwestern. Miami, Ohio took some money, and then there was some buyback immediately. I believe the number I have is -2.5. Excuse me, I have -2.5. But to get into the Miami, Ohio roster, you have Gabbert coming off a season-ending injury, and all accounts suggest he's going to play here. But it's these brutal non-conference games that have gotten Gabbert hurt, like the last 2 seasons. And the only thing that matters in the MAC is winning your conference. Like, what are you going to do? Go up against these Power 5 teams, Power 4 teams, show a lot and just get bludgeoned and lose your players. So right away, there is some motivation questions just anytime the MAC steps up in these games. Now, it's only a 3-point spread, so this is certainly winnable. But you don't have any quality pass catchers on this team. Javon Tracy, Cade McDonald. These players leave a lot to be desired. You lost your top guy, Engaged Larvadane. Joe Wilkins, the Notre Dame transfer from last year, is also gone. Rashad Amos, your best running back, he's off to Ole Miss. So you lost a ton of talent at your skill position players that weren't backfilled by anyone of note. The only guy I guess they notably brought in was Preston Daniel at tight end, but Jack Calderon is still there. So, I mean, they're probably going to play 2 tight ends every single play, which lends itself to an under, I guess. The only transfer on the offense was Dylan Downing from Purdue, 4th on the depth chart. And I mean, he was a failure at Purdue. So I guess, what does this really say about him? But historically, this team uses a nasty committee anyway. They used Amos in the committee. On defense, this is where they are strong. They have a lot of starters back. They only 3. Now, only 1 transfer comes in. So there is some questions here. They don't fill at all. And it's not like recruiting is good in the MAC. Their only transfer is from Mercer. So I have some questions. And that's up front, too. So they lost a defensive tackle. The guy coming in from Mercer, I don't know. We'll see what he gives you. But the other defensive tackle you returned, Kobe Hilton, was well below average. So immediately, I think Northwestern should be able to run the ball. They're changing offenses entirely, and this is what they're going to want to do. So they bring in new coaching staff. Their OC is from South Dakota State. I believe is pronounced Zach Lujan. I don't watch a lot of FCS, so correct me if I'm wrong on that. That offense passed 39% of the time last year. They bring in transfers that sort of fit that mold. Mike Wright at quarterback. He's battling Jack Lausch, who also can run a little bit, but the strength of your team is your 3 starters back on the O-line, the 3 transfers you bring in, some from pretty good programs, and then Cam Porter's back. All that is fine and well, and plus they use A.J. Henning, their Michigan transfer receiver, in the run game quite a bit. Both tight ends are back. They'll go 2 tight quite a bit. And then this defense is elite. This is what's going to win them games and steal games in the Big Ten. They're not ranked highly. I mean, this team is probably like bottom 4 in preseason rankings if you looked right now. But they have the defense that's going to, steal a game against Rutgers, Maryland, teams of that ilk. So I don't think Miami, Ohio scores. I think Northwestern has an advantage running the ball down a weakness up front for Miami, Ohio on defense, and they have the bodies to do it. I'll take this if it's under 3, or I guess 3 is okay.
One of the things this year that's going to be fascinating, we all know, is, we've talked about Liberty a little bit in the preseason. Who's going to get that bid? Boise State is another team that's got serious expectations to be one of the toughest outs. They get their campaign started in kind of I don't want to say a trappy game because I'm not super high on Georgia Southern, but this is no walkover. It's a couple touchdown spread, just inside 2 scores for Boise. Should they be on the stereotypical upset alert, or is Boise poised to actually cover this number?
I think Boise does cover it. They're just really talented, and I don't really care that they went with Maddox Madsen over Malachi Nelson at quarterback. Madsen has experience. That's not how they want to win a lot of games anyway. Your best player is Ashton Genty, so if you can just play through him, have Maddox Madsen do anything to get you like almost a game manager, point guard style, just deliver the ball to your receivers. You have Cam Camper, you got a 4-star freshman in Chris Marshall. They're definitely upgraded at receiver. Plus Latrell Caples is back from a season-ending injury. Yeah, they lost McAllister out the door, but still a very good wide receiver unit. Just deliver the ball to those guys and you'll be completely fine. Genty is one of the best backs in the country. Your line has 4 back. That was a unit that was 76th in pass blocking, 29th in run blocking. You now have Dirk Cutter coming back as OC. Hopefully he helps everything on offense. My questions are still on defense. I'm not a believer in Eric Shenander, the former Nebraska DC. This Boise defense was 110th against the run, 108th in pass rush. They didn't do a lot as far as transfers go, but they did improve throughout the season. So perhaps just with another year of experience, they'll be better. Can Georgia Southern really exploit this? I don't know. They're basically unproven at quarterback, complete unknown, but they're going to run some sort of air raid style offense. They're certainly weaker at Jalen White, OJ Arnold. They're definitely weaker at receiver. They lost some of their better pass catchers. They have 4 back on the offensive line. That unit was really imbalanced. Somehow they were 33rd in pass blocking, 104th in run blocking. They do have 4 transfers. None of them are quality. And then on defense, I think they are pretty strong, but we're Sun Belt trying to live up to a Mountain West defense. They were 63rd against the run, 104th in pass rush. They still have weaknesses. So I do think Boise can cover this number as long as they're motivated. That's probably something we should mention. Oregon's on deck. But, I mean, they need to win this game too. This is not some cupcake. The spread is reasonable. So I think they'll come in and they'll show up.
Yeah, they have to show up. They have no margin for error in games like this. And you mentioned there's a large gap of not showing everything and covering 12.5. This isn't 40 points. That's totally different. Bigger tests ahead for them, but I'm with you. I'm just not super bullish on Georgia Southern. You mentioned that air raid. I got questions.
I think they run a little more, but I don't know.
I mean, it's hard to – some of the things they did, they were in some games. Look at some of those box scores last year. They were in some games. Didn't they play Wisconsin last year in like an insane game?
Yeah, Wisconsin had some problems. I like the defense, but it's just like they had weaknesses last year and they didn't do a lot to improve them. It's kind of like the same guys back with a few transfers in the secondary side. I don't know. It's too much of a jump for me. I think Boise's the side.
We got plenty more games to go, but as we always like to mention here, I'm betting you a couple different things. 1, like and support. Please like this video, comment, listen, download on podcast, leave reviews, do all that great stuff for us. It really does help us out. But more importantly than that, this is for you guys. College football is here, as you know. If you are sweating these games out on Saturday, if you want to know who made the final card, live betting, other questions, it's all for you. And that's why we built the Odd Chopper Marketplace. You come in here, you have all these familiar faces. Find the person or people that work for you. You get inside the ropes. You can get into the Discord. You get those individual channels. Obviously, Matt is there. I am there. This is the type of stuff that can pay for itself over time. Yes, you're getting more picks, of course, but it's not just that. Access to early numbers. Just, hey, the injury popped up. What do we do? those are the type of questions that we will have answers for. Hope to see you in there. The links are below. It's going to be a good time. Now, I don't know if it'll be as good a time as Florida International taking on the vaunted Indiana Hoosiers here. This is a pretty big spread, I believe. I typed in Hoosiers. Yeah, that's what's going to come up. Indiana, they've crossed 21 on FanDuel. Let's see where they are at in life, though. Indiana, wow, they've crossed 21 everywhere. Do you like this north of 3 touchdowns?
I took a 20.5.
Yeah, that's nice. That's very,
yeah, every point matters. So I don't want to be like, oh, don't worry about ignoring key numbers.
Yeah, it matters. All right.
I almost think like alt lines are in play for stuff like this. Just it's week 1. We don't really know what a team like FIU did in terms of improvements year over year because they were super young last year. So how much did they really improve? By most power rating metrics, they're still like a bottom 10 team in the country. And now they're playing a Big Ten team. And I like a lot of what we have on this Indiana squad is James Madison last year. So, I mean, you can use like previous power ratings if you want. How would James Madison have done against a team like FAU? They would have been favored by just as much, if not more. And now you have even better players. You kind of just took the best of James Madison, brought them to Indiana, add that on top of other transfers, and then what you have left is all of the best players from Indiana last year. Now, it wasn't a good team. They ran off players, but you still had a couple guys that were reasonable for this team, and they're there. So this Indiana team is quarterbacked by Curtis Rourke. They have the entire James Madison backfield, in addition to Justice Ellison from Wake Forest, Elijah Green from UNC, in addition to receivers like that come over from James Madison. They bring in Keyshawn Williams. They bring in Miles Price from Texas Tech. Multiple transfers in the offensive line. Trey Wettig from Wisconsin, who was awesome. The defense has a ton of transfers. Many of them come from James Madison, but like CJ West from Kent State, he was the best player on that team. Like Asbury from Old Dominion. There's tons of players that come in. And there's depth now, too, because, I mean, this defense returned 6 starters, and they add over 10 transfers, double-digit transfers, most of them with starting experience. You parallel that with FIU. FIU has 11 back on offense, and they have 6 back on defense. But they only have 1 back in their front 4. They only have 2 back in their front 7. That's 1 edge, 1 linebacker. Only 2 transfers on defense. Surprisingly, that really surprised me. You get a team in Florida. You'd think down transfers
in Miami.
Yeah. I figured they would try to do more on defense to replace this. But they don't have the bodies to stand up to Indiana. So the last thing, what does this come down to? Does Indiana want to cover this spread? Because motivation is always going to be a factor. It's impossible to quantify. But we've seen this coaching staff with James Madison, when they make jumps in competition, they don't want to just win games. They try to make a statement, show they belong, and they'll put teams away. And the other thing that makes me think that is he brought in a ton of transfers. They can't all play. I thought this with SMU, and it was wrong. But a guy like Solomon Van Horst, 5th running back on your team, hypothetically, he came with you from James Madison. There has to be a reason these players are going to go out there and try, in my opinion. Harder than SMU, hopefully. But I do think they cover this spread. Rather than maybe just like take a 21.5, I think I might take a look at like some 23s, 24s. Like if you can get a good plus number on that, I think that's maybe what I would do with this already passing the key number.
Yeah, again, it just speaks to why you want to try to get some closing line value, but there are other ways to play this. I think FIU is going to be improved. I don't think it matters in this particular game, though.
That's a great way to put it. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, I don't think this is the game where that shows, but I do think they'll be more respectable. They were like battling with like Bryant last year. That's just disturbing. So they won't be like that. I can promise you. All right, now we're getting to, I really should have put this game last. I don't know what I'm doing because this is the game that everyone wants to hear about. This is the game. Not only does it impact my win total bet, but I also bet them straight up. And that's UMass, who has taken serious money. UMass was bouncing around. This is crossed. Dude, this is up to 3 in a lot of spots. I have positions at -1.5. I have them on the money line at -135 as well. I obviously like the UMass side. We've talked about influx of transfers, and I do not like Eastern Michigan. Sorry to them, not a fan at all. Talk to me about this game because to me there is real value on my squad.
I agree with you. This has bounced a lot, and it
really
surprised me. It was at -3. Then Eastern Michigan got pounded by somebody. I don't know whomst. Went down to -1, and that's when I bought into it. And now it's back up to 3. I don't know, man. I was really surprised by this. Eastern Michigan went 6-7 last year. They had single-digit losses to a lot of really bad teams. Central Michigan by 3, Northern Illinois by 7, UMass by 2, Ball State, they won by 14. Kent State, they won by 14. Akron, they won by 3. Buffalo, they beat pretty handily at the end of the year. But those are their wins. They're single-digit games and then some like gross wins they had. This is just an atrocious team that went to a bowl. And then we saw them get slaughtered in the bowl by a team that, had a quarterback that didn't complete a pass in the spring game. So I don't know what this Eastern Michigan team was doing in a bowl game. Somehow they crept their way to eligibility. But this team lost a ton of players. They only have 3 back on offense. 2 are on the offensive line. One of them didn't win the starting job. So that's a problem. They have 2 offensive linemen that are not on the depth chart. Also a problem. Their best receiver, J.B. Mitchell, not on the depth chart. Their best transfer, Porter Rooks from NC State, not on the depth chart. You're not going to get good reporting from this team, but that's already very, very concerning. Your quarterback is Cole Snyder. He could not win the job at Buffalo, or I guess he did win the job. He couldn't handle the level of competition at Buffalo, so now he has to come down further to Eastern Michigan. I don't know, man. On defense, you do bring back 6 players with starting experience, 2 in the secondary. Your entire defensive line is back, but nothing at linebacker. That's all transfers. UMass quality roster, man. This team's gotten a lot better. Tyson Fomashon, returning signal caller. They had a couple transfers at running back. They just brought in Brandon Campbell really late in the process in spring. Like he has previously started games. At receiver, Frank Ladson, he's a former 4-star. Some places had him as a 5-star. He couldn't cut it at some higher level competition, but UMass is perfect for him. Sterling Galbon, he's a player with experience. Dom Mazzotti, tight end from San Jose State. They bring in a ton of transfers on the offensive line, and some of these guys come from pretty quality programs. So I'm not really that worried about the offensive line. Braden Roms from Cal, Mayo Glynn, Cincinnati, Paul Chio, Georgia Tech, Benjamin Roy, UCLA, Brian Kilbane started at Akron last year. Defense has some questions, more questions, but you do have some pretty good transfers there, like Etanosa Rubin from Georgia Tech. I won't go through everybody. But I think this team just straight up has more talent. And I'm not sure it's particularly close, especially on offense. And then with so much changing on Eastern Michigan, I flat out don't know how they score a lot of points. I was somewhat interested in an over initially, but now I think I'm just going to ride with UMass and not play anything on the total.
UMass last year, they obviously, particularly on defense, they were a sieve. But they had some decent showings. And listen, when you look at their schedule, they played Penn State. They played Auburn, they played Toledo, they played Liberty. Like those are not real games. In normal games, they actually played okay. They beat New Mexico State to open the year. Lost to Miami of Ohio, no shame in that. Lost to New Mexico by 3. Lost to Arkansas State, who we talked about is good. Beat Merrimack, thank God. Beat Army. Lost to UConn. So like the middling, they blew the game to Eastern Michigan last year. Now they get it at home. Simplest way for me to sum this up, I think this is pretty clear. UMass got significantly better, and I think I could argue that Eastern Michigan at best is about as good as they were last year, and that's a stretch to me.
You never know with depth charts. Sometimes they're accurate, sometimes they're not. Like Hawaii didn't list 3 starters in the offensive line on the depth chart. They all played. Missing 4 players that I had projected as starters on offense ahead of the season, not on the depth chart, is concerning. Doesn't mean they won't play, but it's not a good sign.
It's less likely. There's a chance they don't play.
They're starting 2 receivers I've never heard of.
Well, that's good. I like to hear that because creative players never pan out. So
I've heard of most players. Not.
Yeah, if you don't know him, where's Aju when you need him? But I think he's like graduated like 5 years ago. But that's neither here nor there. UMass, this is the spot. All right, here we go. The new team. There's always a new team. There's new teams in college basketball too, by the way. Teams I've legitimately never heard of. That's another story for another time. But like West Georgia's in there. Anyway, Kennesaw State is new. Also a team from Georgia. They're from Kennesaw. The Owls are upon us, and they are a sizable dog in their opening game here. It has moved to 25.5. What's interesting, you see on the right, 49.5 point total. So they're not believing a ton in what Kennesaw State puts out there. This is a team that has somewhat of a stylistic awkwardness. What do you think that means for this game?
Yeah, I don't know if we should buy Kennesaw State like long term or anything, but they're at least somewhat interesting in this game. You mentioned the stylistics for this team. They have sort of an option-based offense. They do have a new OC, but he's an internal promotion, so I'm not really thinking they changed their offense that much. They had 32% pass rate last year. That was actually high for them over the most recent seasons. So I don't know. This is probably like an Army situation, Navy situation where they're just a tricky team to prepare for because of their offense. And this is pretty big look ahead spot for UTSA. One of their harder games this year comes in week 2. It's against Texas State. They have to travel there. Now it's in state, so it's not like they're going across the country. But that game is going to be close to a pick 'em. It matters a lot more to the spread than playing the team making the jump from the FCS. So I do have some interest in the points. A couple other things in favor of Kennesaw. They redshirted a ton of guys on their team, especially on defense. They should be better there just with the experience they brought back. We saw that work on defense for Sam Houston last year. Their offense was a different story. But again, Sam Houston tried to run a real offense. This is a gimmicky offense that's going to take the ball, try to control the clock, be slow regardless. They ran 59 plays per game, which is really, really slow. You're going to have to neutralize UTSA. They were 19th in pace. They probably play somewhat fast this year. Their offense is going to look different. Another reason, like motivation stuff, DeCorian Clark's not going to play in this game, so he's still rehabbing from the injury he suffered at the end of 2022. Quarterback is a huge question. Owen McCown, Eddie Lee Marburger, those are two pocket passers. I know some people like the FCS Demetrius Davis. He's not even in this competition. Their strength is running the ball too. They bring back a ton on their offensive line. Most of it was hurt last year, but their top 3 running backs are back. Kavorian Barnes, Robert Henry, Rocco Griffin. I think they slow it down a little bit and are much heavier running the ball, which again would lend itself to like points or an under. Last thing, they did bring back French at linebacker. He was previously suspended in the offseason. I think that also points towards an under. So just with all this stuff pointing to the under, there is more value. The dog, I think, getting, this is almost 4 scores, almost 4 touchdowns, a pass or an under.
You mentioned it. Kennesaw is rushing the ball. Like they're in the Air Force, Liberty, Navy. Like you're talking like 70% rushing rate. That's insane.
I mean, they sucked last year, so it's not like they were changing a negative game script.
No. And so it's like that is you up the variance so severely when you're getting 3.5 touchdowns and you play like that. If you get 1 or 2 lucky fumbles, anything to change the margins become extremely thin for UTSA. Now, on the flip side, if you fumble for a touchdown, yeah, that is frowned upon. But I like Kennesaw State in life. I think they're going to be an annoying team for teams. I was debating taking this when it was south of 24, north of 24, 25.5 at -105 on my screen. I will ride with the Owls. I think they're fine.
Yeah, I didn't check the line movement over the night, so that it moved a point.
Yeah,
I was debating it at 24.5. I'm going to give this a real hard look after the show.
One of the teams that we have seen, it's actually a real fascinating game now, is Nevada, and clearly, they didn't win, but they did everything else that you could have asked for and certainly represented themselves pretty well. Now they hit the road against a team that I am really down on in Troy. 9.5 point spread. I don't know what to do here. What do you do here is Nevada better than we think, or was SMU just that inept?
I think it's a little of both, as a lot of things are. Nevada showed themselves to be better than I thought and pretty good on defense, especially up front. They were able to create some havoc with some of their pass rushers, which was a surprise to me, but good for them. We can take that information, and now they're playing a significantly worse offense, horrific offense. It is unknown, so I pause before I go out and just bash Troy. But I mean, this team lost everything. Their coaching staff basically pillaged the entire team. Some others graduated. They have some of the worst returning production metrics in the entire country. Now, that doesn't mean you can't backfill, stuff like that, head to the portal. They did that a little bit. But, I mean, most of their portal guys are coming in from JUCO. It's not like they're getting a significant amount of down transfers, anything like that. This is a very concerning roster, in my opinion. I mean, I'm just looking at the transfers across the board. You do bring in Marcus Dortch from Cal, but it's just like littered with FCS programs like Southeastern Louisiana, Gardner-Webb, Grambling State, Southern. And the other guys they bring in don't have a lot of experience. So, like, Gerald Green comes in from East Carolina. Like, he didn't win the job there. That's a big concern for me. So, just like roster as a whole, this team, I think, is significantly worse than we think. And on the other hand, Nevada, just like, it's a one-game sample, but it is better than I thought. The roster is certainly better, in my opinion, than what Troy has on the field. Like, Brendan Lewis, at least, he's been a starter for multiple seasons now. They're going to get Chuba Purdy back too, so maybe he plays, who knows, but he's probably better than Lewis. Savion Red compliments Sean Dollars in the backfield. Their receivers played okay. Says Braham, he had the nice touchdown, but it's really like on defense. Rapati from JUCO, I was really surprised by him. He played well in the interior. I don't know how to say Henry Akififo. They try to say his name on the broadcast. I could never get it. He played well on the edge. So I don't know. I'm taking the points with Troy. I took it at plus 15.5 before last week. I don't even care. I think anything at a dog price is worthwhile. I think money lines are fine.
Yeah, I mean, I already have a big position shorting Troy in general. You mentioned it's as big of a rebuild as you could see. And in the portal era, you can mask it. They did not. So I don't know what to expect from them. Obviously, if Nevada could win this game, I would be very happy because that would almost solidify that Troy is not clearing their win total. And that would be nice to have in the back pocket. All right, a couple more games. I do want to mention also, though, again, when you're talking these type of games, one of the biggest questions I get in my Discord all the time is like, man, there's so much action right now. I'm betting baseball and soccer and college football. How do you allocate it? One of the ways, of course, there's a lot of bankroll management principles. The others, though, is when you have opportunities to get boosts, promos, potentially bonus bets, you take advantage. If you have a state and you live in it and Bet365 is there, you can bet $5 on one of these games and you get $150 in bonus bets no matter what happens. It's that simple. You do have to be 21 plus, 18 in Kentucky. But if you're in Arizona, Indiana, Iowa, North Carolina, New Jersey, Colorado, Louisiana, Ohio, or Virginia, Pennsylvania as well, it's another way to have some extra, little resources to put on some of these egregious games. Just a very quick way to do it. The link is below. Super simple. And Bet365 is just another out to get good lines. They're not in New York. I wish they were. But wanted to mention that as we get going here. This game, I can't wait to ask you about this because I have real interest in this game. And then I saw a tweet. I think it actually might have been from you that the Charlotte is just like, oh yeah, everyone you thought existed doesn't actually exist. And now the line is moved. What is going on here? Because I'm not super high on James Madison, but there seems to be real personnel issues with the Charlotte side.
What's the line right now?
It's moved to 8.5 minus 115 for James Madison. So they crossed, it dipped to 6.5 and now it's moved a couple points. Let me see. I'll go real quick here. It's up to 9.5 at some spots as well.
If this hits 10, I'm probably going to bet Charlotte.
Oh, yeah.
Here's what happened. I bet Charlotte at plus 7.5. I'll talk about their roster in a second. You get that press conference from Biff Poggi saying half his starters are out. And then I immediately bought out of that. So I have like a -6 James Madison. I don't know. Mostly bought out potential to win or push on one of those sides. Very low chance. But then the depth chart came out right after that, and there were no guys listed out, at least among the guys I thought were going to start. So I like legitimately don't know what to make of this. We know that depth charts aren't the end-all be-all. It's not like he named names. This team has a ton of depth, ton of it. Max Brown, he comes in at quarterback. He came from Florida. He can move. Trexler Ivy is back in case of emergency. He was terrible, but at least he started. Cartevius Norton and CJ Stokes, that's Iowa State, and Michigan at running back. Like, this team is throwing around money. Justin Olson, Omega Blake, Coffrey Brown, in addition to Jarius Mack and Dwayne Thomas, a receiver. 3 tight ends with starting experience back. Your offensive line is full of elite transfers like Jordan Moko from A&M, Mitchell Mays from Clemson. Won't go through everyone. Defense, it's the same thing. This team brought in close to 20 transfers on defense. So half your starters are out. You're throwing money around like no one's business in this conference. This team is pretty good. And I don't know who's out. That is a big question for me. But eventually, like if we get double-digit points with Charlotte, just given this roster, I have to back it. Because James Madison is rebuilding. They lost their head coach, which, of course, that's going to be tricky anytime that happens. I think they did a good job in the portal. They bring in Dylan Morris. He's a former really high recruit. He's battling with Barnett. Who knows? Some good running back transfers. Adai from North Texas. Petaway from North Carolina. Receiver, I think, is a huge issue. Your transfers are bad, like Cam Ross from UConn, Penny from San Diego State, Granger from Old Dominion. Their O-line, I think, is okay. Defense, ton of transfers, only 3 starters back, but most of them from pretty decent programs. Charlotte power rated slightly ahead of James Madison. A lot of interest on the money line before that news came out. Maybe you just wait till kickoff and see who's out for Charlotte or if anyone's out. That could be a way to approach this. If it's not anyone of extreme consequence, like your quarterback or some like cluster injuries on the O-line or something, I think Charlotte is the play. I'm just hesitant to buy back in right now. 1, because I'm not sure James Madison is done taking money. 2, I kind of want to just wait till kickoff and see who's out.
Yeah, I mean, this kicks off. It's Saturday night, so I'm assuming by then I'll have so much money from UMass that I'm probably sprinkle a little on from Charlotte. Won't be a big deal. You mentioned
it was Charlotte all the way until this stupid.
I hear that.
What the hell are they doing in camp?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. What exactly? Junction Boys. That Charlotte's you said they're throwing. They got dudes.
This transfer haul they brought in is whole.
Yeah. And James Madison, you mentioned, we already talked about them because we talked about Indiana. All the good players already, they retooled too. I will give them some credit, but it's not James Madison. Like if you're looking at last couple years, that's not even remotely what's going on. Their quarterback is engineering my Texas State offense right about now. So,
this team is good. Like Adam Hopkins, a 4-star from last year's class, came over from Colorado. Mega Blake, high recruit from South Carolina. Ayote Fase from Florida State.
They needed because Charlotte's defense. They were down there with the UMass metrics in recent years. All-time bad defense.
Well, they basically took all the cast-offs of the SEC or former starters coming up.
Throw transfers at it. That is the move.
They're definitely not going to be that bad this year, assuming they're not all hurt.
Keep an eye on that one. Again, in the links are below. Hop on in, and we will have updates. Last game, Wyoming and Arizona State. Fascinating game. I wish it was in Laramie. It is not, but it's still a very if it was in Laramie, who knows what this spread would be. It has moved, though. Arizona State has taken some money, and it is pushed to 7.5 in some spots. I'll be honest, I don't have a great feel for this game. What are you looking at, or is there a number you're waiting for to make some actionable moves?
I was considering Arizona State before this movement. This happened, must have been overnight. But there was a lot of negative things with Arizona State last year. Some you can control, some you couldn't. Their injuries were clustered. O-line was decimated. Most of those guys are back, plus they bring in a couple transfers that are helpful. Sam Leavitt, former 4-star quarterback, people have been dissing him a little bit from his poor play at Michigan State. I hesitated a little bit there. That was an untenable situation. You throw a young kid into the fire. Like, what did you think was going to happen? So at least there's some promise with him. He's a talented player based on his recruiting pedigree. I don't think his receivers are very good, so that's a question. Running back, some people like Scatabo. I mean, they didn't have anyone else. They kind of just force-fed him, so his numbers look good. I'm not entirely sure he's all that productive. They do have Alton McCaskill behind him, formerly freshman great with Houston. Defense is completely rebuilt. Some of their transfers are quality, so that's going to be a big question. But ultimately, this is a more talented roster. We know what Wyoming does. They're always working from a talent deficit, and part of their allure is when they can play in Laramie and win those games because of their conditioning and their elevation. But they have a lot of change too. Their entire skill position group is new. Evan Savabata, he comes in at quarterback. Some people are just being absolutely ridiculous in comparing him to Josh Allen. He's big, yes. But I mean, this is a guy that couldn't beat out Peasley last year. Let's pump the brakes on the Josh Allen comparisons. Savabata beat out Peasley. We really think this guy's going to come in and like light the world on fire at quarterback for an offense that historically just pounds the ball into dust. I'm not buying that. DJ Jones will be their running back. I think he's going to have to handle the workload because Harrison Whaley's out. McNeely's already out. They're not going to try to throw. So hopefully Arizona State, just like crowds the box and figures this out. Their defense is good. Their offensive line is good. Have to give Wyoming credit where it's due. Just like most Wyoming games, low scoring, a lot of volatility. It's getting close to where, like it's 7 points, 7.5 points. I'm debating a Wyoming side. Anything under that, it would be Arizona State or pass. But as you can see, I think it's pretty efficient, and I'm likely going to pass.
Yeah, I think so too. These teams I want to keep my eye on, particularly Arizona State. There's a lot of mystique around that team, not particularly in a good way, but I just don't know what to make of them. Probably better games on the board. It's a late Saturday game, so have some time there. And again, as we talked about, we just went through a lot of weird games. There's plenty other weird games too. If we didn't mention a game and you have questions and you're in Discord, let us know. But even if you're not, at Matt_Gajeski, follow this man on Twitter at JazzRazBets. Happy to take a look. May not have a play from it, but always happy to take a peek. All right, let's recap it. I tried this on the Betting You show last time, and you just froze and then left, and then I stole all your plays. So we'll see if we do that again, but you have a couple dollars in the pocket. Someone says, what are your best bets for Friday and Saturday? Where are you going?
New Wi-Fi coming Sunday, new apartment. Everything will be fixed.
Yeah, that's right. Unless UMass loses, and then you can't afford it. And we go back to dial up. Tough scenes.
This
you can't class.
Oh. What did you think I was going to say?
Nothing. I said that as a joke, and then I said, yeah, or if UMass loses and then you're on dial up and you literally froze. And so I was like, you can't actually be serious. Okay. You're here, speak, and I'm staying silent.
Northwestern, anything under a field goal. Indiana, I'm okay with it. I would explore some alternate lines. And Nevada, I don't even mind that the line has moved that much. I'm just very lucky to have a position on that. I still think the current number is okay, and I would toy around with some money line stuff. Charlotte, if you can get some good injury news, and I think if this continues to move, it'll be playable regardless.
Charlotte's a fascinating one. Obviously, you know what I'm going to say. I'm throwing Massachusetts, UMass, of course, on there. Anything inside 3. It's going to be my favorite bet. Arkansas State and Kennesaw State are two real weird ones that I think you could look to. Kennesaw State's going to grind up that clock. Arkansas State, even though they're playing a tricky FCS opponent, Arkansas State is going to have a big year. And if that's true and we're right, it would start by looking good tomorrow, whenever the game is. Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, apparently. Why they're playing at 10 in the morning, that's a question for another time. I don't have an answer for you. But
it'll be on when we're on Live Before Lock. What a shame.
That's very disturbing, actually. But again,
oh wait, that's on Friday. Never mind.
No, Saturday. No, you're right. I just don't understand why they're playing that early. Whatever, we'll deal with it. That just means more college football for us. Friends, as always, really do appreciate it. We hope to see a lot of new faces. Both the communities are growing really quickly here. And just Odd Chopper in general, we're really excited about everything. We're excited about college football. I'm very excited to see these games. So on that note, we're going to bounce out of here. But for me, for Matt, and for everyone here, thanks for tuning in. You guys know the drill. If you want more Betting You, let us know, and we'll keep firing off episodes. A couple more for week 2 upon us next week. But until then, guys, good luck, and we'll talk to you soon.